Cybersecurity threats are very real here in Connecticut. With us now, Aruther House. He is the former Cybersecurity Risk Officer. That's a big title for the state of Connecticut. Also worked at the White House under President Obama in national security. And we affectionately call each other cousin, but we should point out we are not related. That we know of.
Not that we know.
Aruther, good to see you here on the program. So explain to our viewers, what exactly is a cybersecurity threat? I think a lot of people just don't understand it.
Yes, cybersecurity threat is something that comes at you through the internet or the computer. It could be anything from a ransom demand that looks for money. It could be a national security threat, which seeks to shut down your public utilities, critical infrastructure. It could be simply a disruption, and there are all sorts of them at all levels, but they tend to permeate just about anything connected to the internet and a computer today.
So what kind of big threats does Connecticut face right now in terms of cybersecurity?
Well, our businesses, of course, face threats for intellectual property theft, for commercial secrets, commercial secrets being stolen, and just plain disruption. Connecticut has been out in front on the public utilities front. We do an annual review every year to try to make sure that our public utilities are safe. Those are the two main ones, I would say, but they cover just about every part of human life.
You know, every so often we hear about people being arrested or charged with this, something like this. When you worked in the White House and you had these threats that you had to investigate, who is carrying them out? And where's it being done? Is it an official government operation in a foreign government? Is it some guy in his mother's basement? I mean, everybody wonders what it is.
It's everyone.
Like, who's doing this?
It's everyone. And I was with the Director of National Intelligence under President Obama, rather than the White House. Who is doing it? Well, there are freelancers. There are people just simply who are out there to do business. A person with a laptop in a third world country can penetrate your business and demand ransom from you, or from a town in Connecticut. And that has happened, where they slap a ransom demand on you and they'll shut down your ability to do public service.
How do you protect yourself from it?
Well, you need someone who is an expert in this field, and it covers everything from the technical side, defense perimeters, firewalls, to the corporate culture in your state government, in your municipal government, in your business, phishing campaigns, two-factor authentication, calling someone up when we're not sure what a message is. So it's everything from the behavior to the technology.
And you worked for the state for a while. Tell us what your role was under Governor Malloy.
Yes. Yeah, I first of all was the head of the Connecticut Public Utilities Regulatory Authority. And then he asked me to we set up under that job our Public Utilities Defense Program, which continues to today. Then I spent 3 years as the Chief Cybersecurity Risk Officer, in which I created, with the Chief Information Officer, Mark Raymond, created an action plan and a strategy for Connecticut businesses, state government, municipal government, law enforcement, and higher education.
Where does that plan stand now?
Well, it has not been continued. The new administration has decided not to proceed with that. I think they're focusing more on some of the technical questions involved in it, but that strategy and action plan have not proceeded under the current administration.
By not continuing this plan, what kind of danger is the state now in your judgment?
Well, we're threatened all the time. We always are. And you'd have to talk to, I've been out now for about 3 months, you'd have to talk to the people who were there. But to put it positively, I think that Connecticut and all states need to do all the protection they possibly can, because as citizens, we're threatened. We also have to look at emergency response after a compromise does take place, Dennis.
What kind of threat, if it was not thwarted, could perhaps impact state government, let's say? You give me a potential worst-case scenario
of course.
example.
Look at Baltimore. Look at Atlanta. In Baltimore, I mean, the city was shut down for weeks and months on end. There have been state agencies which have just been closed off. It's happening across the country. And what happens is someone comes in and they usually issue a ransom. In Baltimore, it was for a couple $100,000. Quickly, they reached over $18 million in cost, plus the frustration of all kinds of things. You couldn't pay your parking ticket, you couldn't get your driver's license renewed, and so forth. So when you hit a government agency, you can basically freeze that operation for a long time. For a town, though, it can be devastating. Suppose you can't call your fire department. Yeah. Suppose you don't know where to send an ambulance, or the police can't respond to a crisis. I mean, there can be loss of life in cases of compromise in some of these government agencies.
Do you think the state has spent enough on this, or in your judgment, should they be spending more on cybersecurity?
Well, I always think they should be spending more because I think it's a serious priority. And I'm not sure if they are spending anything on it right now. Again, that's something to take up with the governor and his team. But the point is that there are practices that should be instituted municipally, state government, and in partnership with businesses to make sure we're safe.
I want to touch on something you said a couple minutes ago. You said that these threats are coming in constantly. Are
Yes.
they daily? Are they several times a day?
Yes, all the time. We do an annual review with our major public utilities, Eversource, Avangrid, or United Illuminating, and so forth. They sometimes find that there are hundreds or thousands of them in an hour.
Wow.
But there does not an hour go by that one of our utilities has not have an outside ping that comes through to try to penetrate their system. So when you say it is constant 24 hours, that's literally true.
How successful is law enforcement in tracking down these hackers?
Well, that's a difficult question because it is hard to do. But in Connecticut, we at least now have in the Connecticut State Police officers dedicated to cybersecurity penetration and looking at it. And they're working with the municipalities. 5 years ago, if you had a problem, they'd say call one of two places, the FBI or the Secret Service. Well, there's a threshold. Neither of those is going to drive to Andover, Connecticut to take care of a problem. But at least we're starting to do some of that work locally now, and that's a big change, and it's important.
Are there a lot of hackers here in the state?
Of course. Yes,
So they're not all in foreign countries?
They're not all in foreign countries, but attribution is difficult. I see what you're getting at. Yes, attribution is very difficult. Where do they come from? It's encouraging to see that we have been able to use our alliances with other countries to arrest people in Europe, in Africa, and Asia for cyber crimes.
To our viewers at home, final quick piece of advice, what they should do with their computers right now in terms of staying secure.
Well, I like to look at it, if you are comfortable doing all your own income taxes by yourself, do it. If you're comfortable protecting yourself on a computer, do it. If you're not, get a professional to come in and help you. They're all over Connecticut. People who can come in, set up firewalls, and talk to you about your practices to do everything you can to stay safe.
Aruther House, always great to have you in the program.
It's good to be here, Dennis.